Have you ever had a neighbor who thinks they can just do whatever they want, no matter how ridiculous? Well, that's exactly what happened to me when my HOA Karen decided to take matters into her own hands and cut down a tree on my property. But here's the twist. This wasn't just any ordinary tree. It was big, it was tall, and it was the kind of tree that you wouldn't mess with unless you were absolutely sure of the consequences. So, what does she do? She comes over, without warning, and starts chopping away at my tree like she owns the place. I'm already fuming because it's a complete violation of my property, but little did she know, things were about to take a wild turn. As she's hacking away, a huge branch suddenly breaks loose and falls right onto her shiny convertible parked in my driveway. Now, I'm standing there, watching in disbelief, as the tree hits her car with a force I never saw coming. You wouldn't believe what happened next, but trust me, it gets even crazier. The worst part, she's absolutely furious at me. How did it go from her cutting my tree to me being blamed for the damage? Stick around because the fallout from this moment is something you don't want to miss. Now, let me give you a bit of context about this Karen. Her name is Debbie, and she's the kind of neighbor who thinks she can control everyone's life. She's the self-appointed neighborhood watch, always sticking her nose into other people's business, and her biggest pet peeve: trees. Apparently, she thinks trees are a nuisance if they're even remotely close to her property line. The HOA. Well, they love her because she's always the first to report anything she considers a violation, and trust me, she's got a laundry list of complaints. For weeks, Debbie had been badgering me about the tree. She'd complained to the HOA every time a leaf fell into her yard, and even tried to get me to trim it down. Of course, I refused. The tree had been there for years, providing much-needed shade during the brutal summer heat, and I wasn't about to let her dictate what I did with my property. But no matter how many times I told her it wasn't going anywhere, she kept pushing, trying to get me to cave. That day, when I saw her outside with a chainsaw, I knew she was crossing a line, but I had no idea just how far this would go. I rushed outside, trying to stop her, but before I could even say anything, the branch came crashing down. The sound was deafening, and there she was, standing next to her car in shock, eyes wide, unable to process what had just happened. What do you think she did next? You won't believe it. Debbie stood there, completely frozen, staring at her convertible like she couldn't quite comprehend what had just happened. The tree branch, now sprawled across the hood of her car, was massive, bigger than anything I had ever imagined falling from it. And yet, there she was, not even blinking. I thought she might break down in tears or lose her temper, but instead, she slowly turned to face me, her face going pale. "I can't believe this," she muttered, her voice shaking with disbelief. But instead of acknowledging that she had no right to be cutting down my tree in the first place, she pointed an accusing finger at me. "This is your fault. You let this happen." It was like she had completely flipped the script. I wasn't sure whether to be furious or just speechless. How could she be blaming me for her reckless behavior? I hadn't even touched that tree, but she wasn't listening. She was too busy going into full-on Karen mode, shouting about how I had endangered her car and ruined her day. The irony of her blaming me for something she caused was lost on her. I tried to keep calm, reminding her that she had no right to be cutting down my tree without permission, but she was having none of it. In her mind, the HOA rules were gospel, and if I wasn't following them to her satisfaction, I deserved whatever she was about to dish out. The tension kept building, and just as I thought things might finally calm down, I saw the headlights of another car approaching, someone from the HOA. Of course. Perfect timing, right? But would this person side with Debbie, or could they see through her manipulation? The car pulling up wasn't just any ordinary neighbor. It was Greg, the HOA president. He had a reputation for being a bit of a pushover when it came to Debbie, and I could already feel the dread sinking in. Of course, she immediately ran to him, pointing frantically at the fallen tree branch and telling her side of the story. "This is unbelievable," she cried, her voice cracking. "I'm being completely victimized here, Greg. I was just trying to be proactive and keep this neighborhood in line, and now look at what's happened. I could have been seriously hurt, and my car, my beautiful car, is destroyed." I could barely hold back a scoff. Asterisk proactive. Asterisk, she was out there acting like a bulldozer. Greg listened, nodding along as if he hadn't already seen the damage, but I could tell he wasn't fully convinced. At least, not at first. I tried to calmly explain my side, but Debbie was relentless. She wasn't about to let her plan unravel, and the more she spoke, the more exaggerated her version of events became. According to her, I had been negligent, irresponsible, and of course, completely disrespectful to the HOA's authority. Greg glanced at me briefly, then at Debbie's car. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. I could see his mind working, weighing the options. Was he going to side with her, like he always did, or would he finally see the truth for what it was? Just as Greg started to open his mouth, something even more unexpected happened. A loud crack echoed through the yard, and I looked up to see another branch, even larger than the first, starting to fall. And this one was heading straight for, well, it wasn't heading for Convertible this time. It was headed for ***. The loud crack rang out, cutting through the tense silence like a gunshot. My heart skipped a beat as I looked up, barely able to process what was happening. The massive branch, bigger than the first one, was coming down with incredible speed. The moment stretched into slow motion as I realized it wasn't aiming for Debbie's Convertible this time. It was coming straight for ***. I jumped into action, shouting, "Watch out," as I pushed Greg out of the way. But it was too late. The branch, heavy and uncontrollable, crashed down between us with a deafening thud. We both stumbled back, just narrowly avoiding being crushed under its weight. I could feel the earth shake beneath me as the branch landed, splintering the pavement and sending debris flying everywhere. I barely had time to catch my breath when I turned to see Debbie, who had barely moved out of the way. Her face was pale, but her eyes were locked onto me with a look of pure disbelief. "Are you crazy?" she screamed, her voice shaking with panic. "This is your fault. You made it worse." I was too stunned to respond, still reeling from the close call. Greg was standing there, frozen, staring at the fallen branch. I could see his eyes darting between the wreckage, the tree, and me, his expression unreadable. He finally spoke, but his voice was shaky, like he wasn't sure how to handle what had just happened. This is insane. This was not supposed to happen. The stakes had just shot up. We were no longer just dealing with a petty dispute over a tree. It was a dangerous situation now, and everyone involved had their own version of the truth. But as the dust began to settle, I could see the wheels turning in Greg's mind. Was he going to take action, or was he just going to pretend like none of this was his problem? And what would Debbie do next? Would she try to spin this into something even worse? Greg finally snapped out of his stupor and rushed over to the fallen branch, assessing the damage with wide eyes. The weight of what had just happened was sinking in for everyone now. Debbie was still standing there, clutching her chest as if she'd narrowly escaped a near-death experience. She turned to Greg, her face flushed with panic. "This is your fault. Why didn't you do something sooner? You're the HOA president. This whole thing is falling apart because of you." But Greg wasn't having any of it. His expression shifted from concern to frustration, and I could tell he was done playing the role of the silent bystander. "You think I'm to blame? You're the one who started this mess, cutting down a tree that wasn't even yours to touch." He snapped back, his voice rising. "You could have seriously hurt someone today. You could have killed someone. You're lucky it was just a branch." Debbie's mouth dropped open as if Greg had slapped her across the face. She sputtered for a moment, but before she could recover, Greg turned to me, his gaze softer now. I don't know how to fix this," he admitted, "but this is no longer about a tree or a car. We need to make sure something like this doesn't happen again." I nodded, relieved that he was finally seeing the bigger picture. But just as I thought the situation might finally be winding down, I heard a voice from behind us. "Is there a problem here?" I turned to see Mr. Jenkins, another neighbor, standing at the edge of the yard. He was holding a camera, his expression unreadable. He stepped forward and glanced at the chaos: Debbie's car, the fallen branch, Greg's troubled face, and then looked at me with a grin. I couldn't help but notice this little incident from my window. You see, I've been following this tree situation for a while now, and I have every single moment on camera. I froze. My heart skipped a beat. Mr. Jenkins had been watching us the entire time. He had footage of Debbie cutting down my tree and everything else that happened after. The twist hit me like a ton of bricks. Just when I thought this nightmare was over, the last thing I expected was for Mr. Jenkins to drop the bombshell that would change everything. This wasn't just about one tree anymore. It was about to turn into a full-blown scandal. The weight of Mr. Jenkins' words hit hard. With the evidence he had, Debbie's version of events was about to crumble. Greg and Debbie both turned to him, their faces going pale as he began playing back the footage on his phone. There, clear as day, was Debbie, chainsaw in hand, cutting down my tree without permission. The whole thing was caught on tape, the moment she started hacking away at the trunk, the branch falling onto her car, and the chaotic aftermath. Greg's eyes flicked between the footage and Debbie, the anger in his face growing. "Debbie, you've been manipulating us all this time," he said, his voice cold. "This isn't just a neighbor dispute anymore. This is a violation of the HOA's rules, and worse, it's reckless." Debbie's face turned bright red as she sputtered for a defense, but it was clear the game was up. Within days, the HOA sent out a formal letter, fining Debbie for the damage and even warning her about future violations. She tried to fight back, but the evidence was undeniable. As for me, the tree was eventually removed safely, and the neighborhood settled back into a strange kind of peace. I learned that sometimes standing your ground and knowing when to call out the truth can be the most powerful move. And while Debbie's tantrum may have caused a lot of chaos, it also reminded me how important it is to stay calm and keep your eyes open for the twists life throws at you.